I used to think I had the kind of luck you only read about in fiction. I wasn't born into money. I wasn't born into legacy. But I found Emily Clark, and that felt like enough. She was vibrant in a way that made quiet rooms glow. People noticed her when she entered. They leaned in when she spoke. She wasn't loud, but she had presence, and I was just lucky enough to be standing beside her. We met at a coffee shop. That's the cliché part. I was grading papers, Intro to American Lit, freshmen, half of them hadn't read a thing. She walked in wearing an oversized gray coat and a look that said she'd already had a long day. Her umbrella had collapsed on her, and her hair was dripping on her laptop bag. I offered her my napkin. She gave me a crooked smile and said, "What do you teach?" 2 hours later, we were still talking. 3 months later, we moved in together. 18 months after that, we were married. Her family had money. Old money. Not showy, but generational. Her father, Walter Clark, was the kind of man who wore suits to Sunday brunch. Her mother, Evelyn, was all pearls and manners. And her brother, Thomas, well, Thomas was polite enough if a little cold. Thinks in numbers. Talks in strategy. Smiles like it's part of a corporate pitch. But from the start, they were nice. At least they seemed nice. They shook my hand firmly. Laughed at my jokes. Evelyn hugged me the day Emily brought me home. Walter offered me a scotch. Thomas said, "Good to meet you finally." So I thought I was in. I thought I was welcome. I thought they saw me as family. And for years, I believed it. We had Sunday dinners, holiday trips, brunches at their country club where I learned how to smile through sentences like, "I guess teaching's a noble profession, even if it doesn't pay much." We talked politics carefully. We debated books lightly. We drank wine just enough. Emily stood by me through it all. She never apologized for me. She never asked me to be someone I wasn't. That's how I knew she loved me. And when we got married, I thought her family did too. They gave us a generous wedding gift, a down payment on a house. They toasted us at the reception with tears in their eyes. They hugged me. They said, "Welcome." So I let myself believe it. I didn't question the small things, like how Walter always introduced me with, "Jason teaches literature at the community college," and then quickly pivoted to what Thomas was doing in real estate development. Or how Evelyn once said, "You know, Emily dated a surgeon before you, but she always preferred depth to flash." I laughed at that. So did she, because I thought I was in on the joke, not the butt of it. But then came the first real crack. Thanksgiving, year 3 of our marriage. Emily and I had offered to host our house, our food, our rules. Everyone agreed. Evelyn asked if she could bring her cranberry sauce. "Of course," Emily said. "We'll do turkey, mashed potatoes, all the basics." Walter offered to bring wine. Thomas said he'd be in town. We were excited. We cleaned for days. Set the table with the good plates. Cooked until the whole house smelled like warmth. The doorbell rang at 4 p.m. Evelyn walked in, looked around, and said, "Oh, it's so cozy." I smiled. "It's a 1950s build," I said. "We've been fixing it up slowly." "Must be hard on a teacher's salary," she said, not unkindly. Walter handed me a bottle of wine. "Thought you might like this," he said. "It's French. Expensive. Not too heavy." Thomas arrived last. With a date. A woman none of us had met before. She was tall, sharp-featured, wore Louboutin heels in my kitchen. "This is Blair," he said. "She's in finance." We made introductions. We smiled. We sat down. Dinner was warm, delicious, intimate. Until Blair asked the question. "So, Jason, what do you really want to do?" I blinked. "I mean, teaching's great," she said quickly, "but what's the end goal?" "This," I said. "This is the end goal. Teaching." She smiled. But then Evelyn jumped in. "He's very modest. He's talked about writing a book. Haven't you, Jason?" I froze. I hadn't. Not seriously. It was something I'd said once offhand. Now it was being used like an alibi. Like a justification. Later, when Emily and I were doing dishes, she leaned over and whispered, "I'm sorry about Blair." I shrugged. "It's fine." "It's not," she said. And I noticed it too. That should have made me feel better. But it didn't. Because for the first time I saw something behind her eyes. Guilt? Like she had brought me into a world that would never fully let me stay. A few weeks later, we got a call from Walter. He wanted to talk finances. We met him at his office, downtown, top floor, leather chairs. He got right to the point. "You know, we helped with the house," he said. "And we're happy to support." But Evelyn and I have been thinking it might make sense to shift the deed into a trust. I frowned. What kind of trust? One that protects the property, he said. Just in case something happens. A divorce. An issue. Emily stiffened. Why would we need that, she asked. It's just a formality, Walter said. Everyone does it. I looked at Emily. She looked at him. No, she said. Walter raised an eyebrow. It's not necessary, she said. We're married. We own this together. Walter smiled. Thin. Pained. Well, if you ever change your mind. We didn't sign. But something broke that day. Not between us. Between them and me. Because that was the moment I realized. They weren't protecting us. They were protecting her. From me. After that I started paying more attention. To how Evelyn always referred to our home as Emily's house. To how Thomas introduced us as Emily and her husband, Jason. To how they never once asked about my family. My mother. My sister. My roots. They asked about my work. But never about my people. As if I existed in a vacuum defined only by my usefulness to their daughter. Emily saw it too. She started to pull away from them, slowly. We skipped a few family events. Took a trip of our own on Christmas. They noticed. They weren't subtle. Family's important, Walter said once. It goes both ways, Emily replied. I loved her so much in that moment I almost forgot why I was hurting. Then came the breaking point. Emily's birthday. Year 5. We threw a small party, just friends, no family. She said she wanted it that way. I want people who see both of us, she said. Not just me. The night was beautiful. Laughter. Music. Stories. At the end, as we were cleaning up, I got a text from Thomas. Didn't get the invite. Can't say I'm surprised. Hope Emily knows what she gave up. I showed it to her. She stared at it for a long time. Then deleted it from my phone. I'll handle it, she said. But she never told me what she said to him. And I never asked. Because deep down I already knew. The thing about masks is they fall. Eventually. And when they do, you have to decide whether to pretend you didn't see the face behind it. Or to finally walk away. I wasn't ready yet. But I was getting close. Because something inside me had shifted. And I was starting to see the truth. They had never really accepted me. They just pretended. And soon, I was going to find out just how far that pretending went. There's a strange kind of grief that comes when something ends. But it never really began. That's what I felt when I finally admitted to myself. Emily's family had never truly accepted me. They had tolerated me, performed civility like an art. But somewhere behind those polite smiles and carefully curated family photos was the quiet rejection I had been too blind or too hopeful to see. The hardest part wasn't that they didn't love me. It was that they pretended to, and I'd built my whole marriage around that lie. After Thomas's text, the one he sent on Emily's birthday, I started noticing things I couldn't ignore anymore. Conversations Emily had with Evelyn that ended abruptly when I entered the room. The way Walter referred to me at his office party as Jason, the academic, with a half-smile like my profession was a cute, harmless detour from the real world. And then there was the will. We weren't supposed to see it. But one afternoon, Emily came home from a quick visit with her parents holding a folder she hadn't meant to open. She'd borrowed their printer, accidentally picked up one of Walter's legal drafts with her own documents. She sat on the couch that night, silent, reading it. When I came in, she handed it to me. I read it once. Then twice. Then a third time, slower, as if that would make the words change. In the event of Emily's passing, all family assets, properties, and trust inheritances are to revert solely to Clark family control. In no circumstances are these assets to be held in joint ownership or transferred to parties outside of the family, including spouses, unless said spouse is legally bound by Clark family trust eligibility and subject to revision by the Board of Trustees. It didn't say my name. But it didn't need to. It screamed what it meant. I wasn't family. Not in life. And certainly not in death. Emily stared at the floor. I didn't know, she said quietly. I had no idea. I didn't blame her. But I couldn't stop the ache. What does that mean? I asked. If something happened to you, I'd have no rights? No say? Not even to the house you grew up in? She nodded. It means they never planned to let you in. She confronted them. To her credit, she did it immediately. She took the folder, stormed into Walter's office the next day, and came back that evening shaking with rage. He said it's standard, she told me. That it's just legal language. That it doesn't mean anything. But it does, I said. I know. Her hands trembled. I'd never seen her so angry. I asked him if he even considered how that would feel for you. He said, and I quote, "Jason's not the kind of person who needs money to feel secure." I froze. "And what did you say?" I told him I was rewriting my will. That night we barely spoke. Not because we were mad at each other, because we were exhausted. From years of pretending. From the weight of all the dinners and birthdays and weekends I'd smiled through while being quietly othered. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, remembering every moment they had offered me a drink, a gift, a seat at the table. And I wondered, how many of those moments were just part of the act? 2 weeks later, Walter invited me to lunch. Alone. Emily encouraged me to go. "Maybe he's ready to talk," she said. So I went. He chose a quiet French place downtown. Old school, white tablecloths, soft jazz humming in the background. He ordered for both of us. I didn't protest. We made small talk. Wine, weather, the local economy. Then he set down his glass and leaned forward. "I want to apologize," he said. I blinked. He continued, "I realized that what might have come across as defensive. It was exclusionary." "Yes, that too," he said, smiling like we were exchanging pleasantries. "But you have to understand, Emily is our only daughter. We built this family legacy over generations. We need to protect that. From me. From risk," he clarified. "From uncertainty. I'm her husband. And we respect that." I leaned in. "No, you don't. You respect that I haven't made a scene. That I've smiled and nodded and accepted being politely diminished in every room your family walks into. But let's be clear, you don't see me as one of you." He was silent. I continued. "You toast me at weddings but cut me out of the picture. You offer me wine but not trust. You let me marry your daughter but not belong to your name." He picked up his glass again. "I'm sorry you feel that way." That was it. The conversation ended not with a resolution but a dismissal. Back home, Emily asked how it went. I didn't answer right away. I just said he wants to protect the family. Her face tightened. What does that even mean? It means I'm not it. Things changed after that. I stopped going to Clark family events. Emily didn't force it, but the distance grew. Not between her and me, but between her and them. Her mother started calling less. Thomas unfollowed us on social media. The air was heavy every time we tried to make plans with anyone carrying the Clark name. One night, over dinner, Emily said, "I feel like they're making me choose." I put down my fork. "You don't have to." She shook her head. "I already have." Then came the last straw. A charity gala Evelyn had been planning for months. It was a Clark family tradition, tables filled with donors, speeches about legacy, polished photos in magazines. Emily had helped organize it since she was a teenager. This year, she asked if I could sit at the head table with her. Evelyn said no. Not directly, but through the seating chart. I was placed near the back at a table with distant cousins and people I'd never met. Emily confronted her. "I'm your daughter," she said. "Jason is my husband. If you can't respect that, then we're not coming." Evelyn's response? "We're sorry you feel that way." Same script. Same cold dismissal. So we didn't go. And the next day, Emily received an email from her father. "You've made your position clear. If you want to prioritize someone who doesn't understand the importance of heritage, that's your choice. But choices have consequences." Emily showed it to me, then deleted it without a word. We went no contact after that. No more dinners. No more birthdays. No more pretending. For the first time since our wedding, we were truly alone. But we were free, and that was something we hadn't felt in a long time. People asked if we regretted it. Walking away from the Clark name. From the family fortune. From the access and the recognition. Emily always said the same thing. "I'd rather be broke and loved than gilded and tolerated." And me? I said this. They never accepted me. They just performed acceptance. And when the applause stopped, so did the illusion. But even then, I didn't know how deep the betrayal went. Not until I found the letter. The one Emily never meant for me to read. The one that would break everything we tried so hard to hold together. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Late spring. The kind of day where the light filters through the curtains just right, golden and lazy. I was working from home, grading papers at the dining table while the kettle hissed in the background. Emily was at the office dealing with her firm's latest disaster, something about a client breach, third-party fallout, and 12 unread voicemails by 10 a.m. I wasn't snooping. Let me say that first. I was looking for a USB drive, one I swore I'd left in the drawer of her writing desk. Emily had a habit of saving everything. Notes, receipts, old birthday cards, letters from high school friends she hadn't spoken to in a decade. It was one of the things I loved about her. The way she clung to meaning, to fragments, to memories most people forgot. The drawer was stiff, stuck on the right side. I tugged gently, then harder. Popped open. Papers shifted. And that's when I saw it. A small white envelope. Unsealed. My name wasn't on it. But her handwriting was unmistakable. Curved. Neat. A little tilted to the right. I knew I shouldn't have. But I also knew something was waiting for me inside it. So I read it, and everything I thought I knew tilted, then broke. Dear Evelyn, I know you'll never understand. You see Jason as a phase. A soft landing before I come to my senses and marry someone who fits. But I chose him, and I keep choosing him. But it's not always easy. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to marry someone approved. Someone who didn't make dinner feel like negotiation. Someone whose every introduction didn't come with an explanation. He doesn't know what I've given up to be with him. And some days, I resent that. I know that's wrong. But it's true. I love him. I love him fiercely. But I've also lied. I told him you welcomed him. That your comments were harmless. I hid the letter you sent me before the wedding. The one where you said if I went through with it I'd be written out of your will. I didn't want him to know. Because if he knew, he might have left me first. And I didn't want to risk losing both of you. I thought I could make it work. That I could keep peace on both sides. But peace built on lies isn't peace. It's silence in disguise. I just hope if this ever comes out you'll both forgive me. Emily. I sat there for 10 minutes. Maybe more. The clock ticked. The kettle cooled. The world continued like nothing had happened. But inside me, everything shifted. I felt betrayed. Not by her love, but by her silence. By the fact that she had let me believe we were in it together when really she had been shielding me from a fire I should have seen coming. She had stood between me and her family like a buffer, not a partner. And now I understood why the weight felt heavier on some days, because she had been holding my grief along with hers. And she had never told me. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I just waited. She got home at 6:43 p.m. Kissed my cheek absent-mindedly. Set down her bag. Took off her shoes. Then she saw the envelope on the counter. Her whole body froze. I watched her hands. They twitched slightly. Where did you find that? She asked. In the drawer, I said quietly. Her voice dropped. You read it. I did. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just nodded. Slowly. Like a prisoner waiting for a verdict. I wasn't hiding it from you, she said. You literally hid it from me. I mean, I wasn't planning to lie forever. I didn't know how to say it. So you said nothing. I thought I was protecting you. No, I said. You were protecting yourself. That night, we sat on opposite ends of the couch like two strangers forced to share space. She told me everything. About the letter from Evelyn. About how it had arrived a week before our wedding, slipped under her office door in an envelope with no return address. About how it had said, if you go through with this, don't expect us to support the marriage. You'll be choosing him over everything we built. About how her father had tried to draft a financial agreement that would bar me from accessing any family assets. About how she had spent the first year of our marriage waking up at 3 a.m. wondering if she'd ruined her relationship with her parents for someone who didn't even know the cost. I was terrified, she said. Not of you. Of what they'd do to you. Of how they'd break you down piece by piece and smile while doing it. I stared at the floor. You should have told me, I said. I know. I would have still married you. She looked at me then. I know, she said again, softer. But I didn't want you to carry that weight. Then you shouldn't have let me walk blind into a room full of knife. At the woman who had chosen me, but had hidden how much it cost. I don't know, I said. I want to, but I don't know what's real anymore. She nodded, then said something that fractured me. Maybe we both need time to figure out if we can rebuild without pretending. So we took space. Not a separation. Not officially. Just space. She moved in with a friend downtown. I stayed in the house. I kept Knox, our rescue dog. She took her books, her sweaters, the plants she'd named. And suddenly, the home we'd built felt like a museum to something that had almost worked. People asked what happened. I told them the truth, as much as they could understand. She loved me, but she also loved approval. And eventually, those two things couldn't coexist. They nodded. Some said they were sorry. Some said, at least you found out. But no one really got it. Because betrayal isn't always about infidelity or screaming matches. Sometimes it's about silence. About realizing the person you trusted most was trying to protect you from a truth you had a right to face. Weeks passed. Then months. We didn't speak often. Just updates about bills. The occasional, did you see this, when a mutual friend got engaged. Then one morning I got a letter. From her. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter. Jason. You once told me that honesty is the highest form of love. That we don't lie to people we believe can survive the truth. I thought I was being kind by shielding you. But now I see I was selfish. I didn't trust you to carry the weight. And in doing that I made you carry the loneliness instead. I'm sorry. I miss you. Not the dinners. Not the routines. You. If there's still a door open. I'd like to walk through it. Without pretense. Without pretending. I love you. Truly. This time with nothing hidden. Emily. I read it twice. Then again. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel anger. I felt the quiet possibility of repair. Because love that survives betrayal is not naive. It's brave. And maybe, just maybe, we were ready to be brave again. When you fall in love, you picture beginnings hand-holding in bookstores, rainy nights curled up on couches, the soft kind of laughter that only belongs to people who feel safe. You don't picture the conversation that begins with, "Do you still believe in us?" But that's what I found myself saying, sitting across from Emily on a park bench 6 months after we drifted apart. It was fall. The trees were turning. The wind was sharp. Her hair was longer than I remembered, her eyes a little heavier, like sleep had been optional these past few weeks. She'd written me a letter. I'd written nothing in return. But I had texted. "Can we talk?" One real conversation. No performances. No rehearsed lines. She had replied. "Yes. I'm tired of pretending too." So here we were. Two people who'd once shared a home, a life, a dream. And were now trying to decide if truth was enough to build something new from the wreckage. She was the first to speak. I thought the letter might make it easier. It did, I said. And harder. She nodded. "I thought I was protecting you," she said softly. "You were protecting yourself," I corrected. "From the fallout. From your family. From admitting how much you'd already lost by choosing me." Her hands gripped the paper coffee cup in her lap. "They made me believe I could have both," she whispered. "You and them. Truth and peace. But their love came with conditions. Yours never did." That silence sat between us like fog. "I should have told you everything," she added. "From the beginning. I should have asked," I said. "I saw the cracks. I saw how hard you were working to keep the mask in place. And I let you. Because I didn't want to see the ugliness behind it." She turned to me. "Do you hate me?" It was a question full of childlike fear. The kind that doesn't just want an answer, it wants a hand to hold through it. "No," I said. "But I don't trust you. Not yet." That hurt her. I saw it. But it was the truth. And truth was the only currency we had left. We walked after that. Down winding paths littered with leaves. She told me what those months had been like for her. The holidays spent alone because her parents said the door's open but made it clear that door came with judgment. The therapist she'd started seeing. The conversations she'd had with Thomas, who told her, flat out, he was never one of us. "You just didn't want to see it." I told him he was right, she said. "And that it's the reason I'm done trying to be part of that world." I looked at her. "You're serious?" She nodded. I walked away. It wasn't a dramatic break. No screaming. No slamming of doors. Just a quiet decision to stop bending herself into something they'd accept. She stopped returning Evelyn's calls. She told Walter, "This marriage means more to me than your inheritance." She told Thomas, "You can keep the name. I'll keep my peace. I'm not here to ask you to take me back," she said. "I'm here to tell you that I finally made the choice I should have made years ago." I stopped walking, turned toward her. What was the choice? To stop trying to make everyone comfortable with my happiness. We stood like that in the middle of the path. The wind pushing leaves around our feet. Two people with nothing left to perform. I reached into my pocket and pulled out something I hadn't looked at in months. Our wedding photo. Worn edges. Two faces caught mid-laugh. "You remember that day?" I asked. "Of course." I believed every smile you gave me. They were real, she said. They just came from a place that was trying to be brave. And now they'd come from a place that finally knows how. We sat back down. I didn't make promises. Neither did she. But we made one agreement. To rebuild. From the ground. Without her family's shadow. Without my silence. Without any masks. We didn't move back in together right away. We started slowly. Dinners. Walks. Couples counseling. Real, messy conversations. The kind that hurt but also healed. She told me about the moments she felt ashamed of the life she chose. I told her about the nights I laid in our bed wondering if I had been nothing more than a placeholder. We unspooled it all. And somewhere in that unraveling we found each other again. Not the versions we performed, but the people we were under all that pressure. And we liked who we found. When Emily told her parents she was staying with me again, they said, "That's your decision. Not we're happy for you. Not we're sorry. Just that." And it was all she needed to hear to let go of needing anything more. One night, a few months later, she asked me, "Would you marry me again?" I looked at her. "No," I said. She blinked. "Because this time," I added, "I don't want to pretend it's the first time." She smiled. "Then what do you want?" "I want to renew what we were. What we are. But I want us to say vows without fear in the room. Without apology. Without the Clark family holding a gun to the back of your smile." She nodded. And in that moment I saw the woman I fell in love with. Braver. Bolder. Unapologetic. Ours. We planned a small vow renewal. Just us. Her best friend. My sister. Knocks at our feet. In a backyard. No designer suits. No silver flatware. No inheritance papers in the background. Just two people holding hands. Saying, "I choose you." Again. With nothing left to hide. And this time? The smiles in the photos didn't hide anything. Because finally they didn't need to. The house felt different now. Same floorboards. Same creaking hallway light. Same coffee stains on the edge of the kitchen counter where Emily always left her mug half-finished in the morning rush. But it was different. Because this time everything inside it was chosen. There were no shadows we avoided. No silences packed with hidden meanings. No unspoken expectations hovering in corners like ghosts. We had burned the stage. Now we were building something off-script. It started with small things. New keys on the ring. Hers and mine remade together. We re-signed the mortgage. Equal owners. Not because the bank needed it, but because we did. We deleted the old wedding playlist. Made a new one. Songs that didn't belong to anyone else's taste but ours. And one Saturday morning we sat at the kitchen table, warm sunlight crawling across the floor, and wrote 2 letters. Not to each other. To ourselves. This is who I am now. This is what I've learned. This is what I refuse to carry forward. Mine was full of grief. And defiance. And hope. So was hers. We sealed them in envelopes. Wrote the date on the front. Tucked them into a drawer under the bed. To be opened only if we forgot why we started over. People asked questions, of course. Some with love. Some with quiet judgment. Evelyn sent an email 3 weeks after the vow renewal. "We're happy you found peace. But I hope you understand why things can't go back to the way they were." Emily didn't reply. She just archived it and said, "That's the last time I let her define my peace." Thomas never reached out. And we didn't expect him to. The Clark family sent their message loud and clear. "You're not one of us." But we'd already stopped listening. Instead, we started reaching out in other directions. We built a chosen family. Friends who showed up not with questions, but casseroles. Neighbors who babysat Knox when we traveled. My sister who mailed us a painting with a note that said, "Blood is DNA. Family is choice." We hosted dinners. We shared stories. We laughed louder than we ever had before. And when someone mentioned the Clarks at one of those dinners, I said, "They're not in our life anymore." And no one asked why. Because the people who belong in your life don't need footnotes. Then came the call. From Emily's grandmother. The one who had always stayed silent in the background. "Would it be okay if I visited?" she asked. "I miss her. I miss you both." Emily was hesitant, but said yes. And when she arrived, she didn't bring an agenda. She brought photo albums. Old ones. Pictures of Emily as a child. Her first ballet recital. Her 5th birthday. A beach trip where she wore sunglasses too big for her face and smiled like she already knew she'd break hearts one day. She looked at me and said, "You know, they raised her to believe the world had to look a certain way." She flipped a page. But she always wanted something different. Another page. I think she finally found it. And I realized then, some parts of your past don't return to hurt you. Some come back to say, I see you. Now, one spring afternoon, Emily and I sat on the back porch, Knox asleep at our feet. The wind carried the smell of lemon blossoms from the tree we planted the day we moved back in together. Do you think we'll ever start a family? She asked. Her voice was careful. Not because she was afraid of my answer, but because we'd learned how much weight questions like that could carry. I looked at her. At this point, I said, anything we build will be real. Because nothing in this house is pretending anymore. She smiled. And that was all either of us needed to hear. 6 months later, we found out we were pregnant. Unexpected. Not unwelcome. We held each other in silence after the test. She cried. I laughed. Then I cried too. We didn't tell the Clarks. Not because we were angry, but because they'd made their position clear. And we no longer needed their approval to write our next chapter. We told our people, our friends, my sister, Emily's grandmother, everyone who'd stood by us, not as spectators, but as believers. And when our daughter was born, June Marie Miller, she came into a world already full of love. No conditions, no footnotes, no legacy to uphold but her own. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm rocking her to sleep, I think about the day I read that letter. The betrayal, the unraveling, the silence that followed. And then I look down at this tiny human in my arms. And I whisper, you will never have to earn love by pretending to be someone else. Because we didn't survive all of that to repeat the cycle. We survived to end it. We are not the family that hosted galas or had their names engraved on foundation walls. We are not the family that welcomed outsiders with fine wine but locked the doors after the party. We are the family that fought to exist. That chose honesty over harmony. That stopped smiling through disrespect. That stood when it would have been easier to run. And that's a legacy worth passing on.